Welcome back to the Wigan Athletic Heritage Project podcast and episode 2 of our deep dive look at the history of Wigan Athletic. Last time we told the extraordinary story of how Wigan Athletic was born in the summer of 1932, the frantic negotiations, the bureaucratic battles with the Lancashire Football Association, the appointment of former England international Charlie Spencer as player-manager, and the scramble to build a squad from absolutely nothing. Today we pick up the story right where we left off. The talking is over, the season is about to begin, and we're going to live through the first week of Wigan Athletic's existence as a competitive football club, match by match through the eyes of the Wigan newspapers. These original press cuttings give us something truly special, not just the results, but the atmosphere, the individual performances, the crowd reactions, even the letters to the editor. It's a time capsule of a community falling in love with its new football club. So, Saturday the 27th of August 1932, Springfield Park, Wigan, the day it all begins. The Wigan Examiner's headline sets the scene perfectly. Soccer's send-off, good game at Springfield Park. And then, underneath, Port Vale get the goals, Athletic out of luck. So you already know the result wasn't going to be a fairy tale, but the report makes clear that the occasion itself was something special. Football enthusiasts in the Wigan area gave the new soccer club a very good send-off at Springfield Park on Saturday, the Examiner wrote. The attendance was fully 5,000, and the players in their attractive red and white jerseys had a rousing reception. 5,000 people for a brand new club's first ever match in a regional league against reserve team opposition. That tells you everything about the hunger for football in Wigan. The gate receipts came to £175. Admission was 7p, of which a penny went straight to the taxman as entertainment tax. The Athletic were up against a strong proposition in Port Vale reserves, who were reputed to be one of the best teams in the Cheshire County League. The Examiner was clear-eyed about this, but also optimistic. On Saturday's showing, the Athletic should do well in this league, it noted, for although they were beaten, the team is completely new, and given time to get thoroughly trained and accustomed to each other's play, better results will accrue. And the first half bore that out magnificently. The Athletic made rings round their opponents in the first half, the Examiner reported. Port Vale must have felt very satisfied to cross over at the interval without a goal scored against them. Wigan had in fact forced over a dozen corners, and the ball would go anywhere but between the sticks. Credit must of course be given to the Port Vale defence for its solid work, and to the goalkeeper in particular for his great saves and delightful anticipation. So at half-time it was 0-0, and Wigan had been the better side. But Port Vale had that goalkeeper Davis who was having one of those days. The second half started brightly for Wigan too. Murphy brought the keeper to his knees with a grand shot. Spencer was showing better form, and one of his well-placed passes was tapped by Murphy to Henderson, who fired over the bar. But then Port Vale began to use the wind, which was now in their favour, and with an hour gone the first blow fell. The Examiner described it as an unexpected score. Nolan got away down the left wing, attracting the opposition, and fired across to the far post, where McGrath met the ball on the run and netted with a good shot. 2 minutes later, Nolan got through the Athletic defence with a solo effort, and when the goalkeeper came out, Nolan screwed the ball into the corner of the net. 2-0 to Port Vale, and that's how it finished. The Examiner was keen to stress that this was no disgrace. The Athletic were the better schemers throughout, and in a melee it seemed a certain goal when McCabe fired in a hot handful. It seemed well nigh impossible to save, but Davis got the ball down and cleared in marvellous fashion. McCabe was fouled, and a beautifully placed free kick by Wake provided another chance, but every effort was thwarted. The first ever Wigan Athletic team for the record lined up as follows: Abbott in goal, Odell and Callaghan at fullback, Allen, Spencer and Wake at half-back, Chambers, Smith, McCabe, Henderson and Murphy in the forward line. 11 men making history, even if the scoreline didn't quite reflect the performance. What really brings this period to life is the public response, and the Examiner captured it beautifully. There was a letter to the editor that perfectly sums up the mood. It begins, "Bravo, keep it up, Athletic. A fine team, splendid football, more to follow, and with it goals. This is the opinion of the crowd which left Springfield Park on Saturday last." The writer went on, "The men can play football and the public know it. The team spirit was magnificent, and the type of football of the very best. Although the Athletic lost, it was a defeat in which they had the greater share of glory and skill in abundance. Judging by the compliments heard all round, the Athletic have the best wishes of all lovers of the game in Wigan, and I feel sure adequate support. It was signed simply, Enthusiast." That's a fan letter from 1932, and honestly it could have been written last week. The pride, the optimism, the sense that something good is happening even in defeat. That's football, isn't it? And the Examiner's own football columnist, writing under the pen name Linesman, was equally enthusiastic in his column Linesman's Notes. He opened with, "Once more I can write that soccer football has been re-established in Wigan, and I extend my hearty congratulations to that enthusiastic band of workers through whose courageous and determined efforts Wigan Athletic FC has come into being." He praised the committee for handling matters satisfactorily, noted that 4,000 or 5,000 people had rolled up to Springfield Park on Saturday for the opening match. A very happy sign and a happy send-off for Cheshire League football in Wigan. He singled out McCabe and Murphy among the attackers as particularly pleasing the crowd, and also liked the work of Wake, Odell, Callaghan and Abbott in goal. But the linesman also issued a sensible caution. There must be the minimum of chopping and changing of the team, unless injuries necessitate them. He wrote, "I imagine the team we have got is quite good enough to hold its own with the best of this league, and the longer the team is unchanged, the better the understanding." If the Port Vale match was a promising defeat, what happened 4 days later was an absolute statement of intent. Wednesday the 31st of August 1932, Springfield Park again, Wigan Athletic versus Tranmere Rovers reserves. And the Examiner's headline this time left no room for doubt. Rovers routed. Athletic's brilliant performance, forwards in scoring vein. Wigan Athletic delighted a crowd of 4,000 with scintillating football on Wednesday evening, the report began, when they triumphed over Tranmere Rovers reserves in easy style to record their first success under the auspices of the Cheshire County League. The result of 5-1 in no way flattered the Wiganers, for had they taken full advantages of their chances, the score might have reached double figures. 5-1, and they could have had 10, in only their second ever competitive match. The hero of the evening was Murphy, the outside left, who stood out prominently on the left where he furnished a fine turn of speed, clever ball control and excellent approach work for which he was frequently applauded. McCabe was a forceful and go-ahead centre forward, always a source of danger and worry to the Tranmere defence. The intermediate line, that's the half-back line of Allen, Spencer and Wake, was responsible for some excellent constructive and defensive play. Spencer lost the toss and the Athletic were put to face the dazzling sunshine, which proved troublesome, but Wigan immediately applied pressure and some exciting scenes were witnessed in the Rovers' goalmouth, where Roper, the visiting keeper, was given an anxious time. The Athletic were generating some sparkling movements by means of smart first-time transfers, McCabe proving himself adept in quickly distributing the ball to the flanks. The breakthrough came 7 minutes from the interval. The movement was engineered by Henderson, who skillfully slipped the ball through to Murphy. The left winger cut in smartly and lifted the ball into the goalmouth, from where Smith rushed it in. 1-0 at half-time, and Gus Smith had just scored the first ever competitive goal for Wigan Athletic. A moment in history right there. Within a couple of minutes of the restart, the Athletic increased the lead. The ball came to the toes of McCabe, who screwed it into the far corner of the net from 10 yards out. That further success proved a tonic to the home side, who practically stormed the Rovers' citadel. Then came a bit of a shock. Following a breakaway, Adams placed the ball into the Wigan net, but a linesman signalled that the visiting outside right was offside, and after a consultation the official in charge reversed the decision and ordered a free kick. Reprieve for the Athletic. Murphy was applauded for a smart piece of approach work which he crowned with a rasping drive. Roper saved in equally fine style, but then, 15 minutes from the end, Wigan went further ahead in surprising fashion. Smith created an opening for Chambers, who ran in close before placing the ball over the outstretched arms of Roper into the goal. 3-1. A minute later, Chambers added a fourth, this time combining with Smith, who in turn placed beautifully for the right winger to beat Roper with a dainty shot. Following a breakaway by Tong, who put across a delightful centre, Jones reduced the lead by heading past Abbott for Tranmere's consolation. But Wigan responded immediately with another clever piece of combination which culminated in McCabe driving the ball through a ruck of players into the goal. 5-1. Game over. The final scoreline: Wigan Athletic 5, Tranmere Rovers 1. The goal scorers: Smith, McCabe twice and Chambers twice. A night to remember at Springfield Park. Linesman, the Wigan Athletics football column, the Wigan Examiner's football columnist, was rapturous after this opening week. Association football stocks soared in Wigan on Wednesday evening, he wrote, as the result of the Athletics' convincing victory over Tranmere Rovers reserves. There was unbounded enthusiasm, which augurs well for the future of the newly formed club. He noted that the 6,000 spectators across both matches went away thoroughly satisfied, not only with the success achieved by the team, but with the standard of football served up, which many claim to be superior to that ever witnessed at Springfield Park. That's a significant claim, better than anything Wigan Borough had offered in their Football League days. On the Tranmere match specifically, Linesman wrote that it would not be an exaggeration to describe the Athletics' display as one of scintillating football. Not only were cleverness and skill revealed, but the home players completely nonplussed the Merseysiders by their lightning first-time passes, which were executed with fine judgment. The team blended admirably, and the players appeared to have developed a splendid understanding in a short space of time. Murphy again caught the eye with his artistry and skill on the left flank, his combination of speed combined with smart footwork and ball control making him a source of much concern to the Tranmere rear guard. McCabe had to do a great deal of pressing for the ball as the inside forwards kept dropping too deep, but he was enterprising and thirstful, always ready to seize upon an opening, and was rewarded with 2 capital goals. And Smith, Linesman noted, had the distinction of notching the Athletics' first league goal, and was conspicuous with fine scheming powers, which created many excellent openings for Chambers. The defence meanwhile held the Rovers nameless until late on, with Wake and Allen outstanding for their constructive and defensive work. But Linesman was also a realist. He urged minimal team changes, and he noted that while the present formation was effective enough in the Cheshire League, the inside forwards needed to keep their positions better and support McCabe more centrally. Sensible observations for a side still finding its feet. And then came the real test. Saturday the 3rd of September, Wigan Athletics' first ever away match. And not just any away ground, the recreation ground at Hanley, home of Port Vale reserves, the team that had beaten them on the opening day. The players travelled by road, by Sharrobank, leaving Springfield Park at 12:30 with kick-off at 3:15. The Examiner named an unchanged team from the Tranmere victory: Abbott, Odell, Callaghan, Allen, Spencer, Wake, Chambers, Smith, McCabe, Henderson, Murphy. But there was also a significant new addition to the squad. On Thursday, Wigan Athletic had signed on professional forms George Benjamin Jones, a left half-back who was a utility player, capable of operating at inside left and in the half-back line. Jones had previously played for Bolton Wanderers, Swindon Town and Oldham Athletic. He was 25 years old, 5'10", and weighed 11 stone 5. He travelled with the first team to Port Vale as a reserve. The headline tells the story: Vale held, Athletics bold bid, keen game ends in draw, Jones's good debut. The return game at Hanley was a ding-dong struggle, the Examiner reported, the exchanges being contested at a fast pace. Except for a little feeling shown in the first half when several players got at loggerheads, the play was clean. The crowd of 5,000 witnesses saw some exciting football, with the Athletic being the cleverer side. A draw was a fitting result, but the Wiganers were presented with the more favourable scoring opportunities, frittered away through over-eagerness on the part of the forwards. McCabe had 3 really gilt-edged chances, which he wasted because he was too hasty. As was the case in the previous encounter, the Athletic were the more aggressive side throughout, and had the forwards been able to finish better, they would have collected 2 points instead of 1. Jones, making his debut at left-back, was singled out for particular praise. His clearances were executed with precision and coolness, and he furnished a very pleasing display, judging by the form shown on Saturday. The Examiner declared he should be an acquisition to the club, especially as he was a utility player. Odell, who had been shifted to right half in place of the injured Allen, was outstanding in this berth, where he was responsible for some excellent constructive and defensive work. Spencer and Wake formed a strong intermediate line alongside him. Abbott in goal was magnificent. The Examiner highlighted one passage where he turned high, rasping shots over the bar, or pushed them round the posts, and the newcomer Jones, who figured at left back, provided a sound display, tackling and clearing with plenty of confidence, and was not harassed when hard pressed. The match finished 0-0, and afterwards several directors of the Port Vale club made encouraging remarks about the Athletics' display. They expressed the opinion that the Wigan team ought to have a successful season in the Cheshire County League. That was high praise from a Football League club. Linesman, in his notes, was full of satisfaction. There was general satisfaction amongst the followers of Wigan Athletic, he wrote, as the result of the performance of the team at Hanley last weekend. To collect a point from such a strong side as Port Vale Reserves on their own ground is a feat of which any club in the Cheshire County League might well be proud. He noted that a Port Vale director had paid the Athletic a fine tribute after the match, saying they had a very good side which should do well in the league. An average of a point a match from the opening 3 games was a most promising start, with the players developing a good understanding and combination. And he observed that the fine team spirit which had been displayed in the matches to date was in itself a great asset, and that the players appeared to be a happy family. When they are contented, he wrote, everything is bound to go satisfactorily. While the first team were impressing, the reserves were having a tougher time of it in the West Lancashire League. They had already lost 3-0 at Lancaster Town on the opening day, and the things didn't improve quickly. A midweek trip to Brightmet United ended in a 4-1 defeat, with Swift scoring the Athletics' only goal. Then at home to Leyland Motors, the reserves went down 5-1, despite Barlow being reorganised to centre forward and reducing the arrears early in the second half. The visiting forwards were not to be denied, adding further goals through Catton, Haydock and Waters. The reserves were clearly a work in progress, drawn from amateur ranks and local talent, but there was a special trial match for amateurs arranged at Springfield Park, with Spencer himself overseeing it, looking to strengthen the second string. The club was leaving no stone unturned. And looking ahead, the fixture card was already filling up. The next big test was the Cheshire League Challenge Cup first round, an away trip to Chester Reserves at the Sealand Road ground. Allen was doubtful with a leg injury sustained in the Tranmere match, meaning 12 players were selected to make the journey, with Odell available to cover at fullback if Jones had to fill the wing half position. The players would travel by road, leaving Springfield Park at 2 o'clock, and for supporters, the LMS Railway Company were running a special train at a cheap rate of 2 shillings and sixpence for the return journey. There was also an interesting detail about the kit. For the Port Vale away match at Hanley, the Athletic had played in their old Wigan Borough away colours of black and gold, because their usual red and white jerseys would have clashed with those worn by Port Vale. A nice little link back to the predecessor club, even if Wigan Athletic were at pains to stress they were an entirely new entity. So there it is, the first couple of weeks of Wigan Athletic. Played 3, won 1, drawn 1, lost 1. 5 goals scored, 3 conceded, and most importantly, a town completely captivated by its new football club. What strikes me most reading through these cuttings is the sheer quality of the reporting. The newspapers didn't treat this as some minor local soccer club. They gave it the full works, detailed match reports of individual player assessment, tactical analysis from linesmen, letters from fans, team news, squad updates, signing announcements. They took it seriously, because Wigan as a town took it seriously. And the football itself was clearly good. 5,000 for the first match, 4,000 for the second, 5,000 watching at Hanley, a Port Vale director telling them they had a team good enough to do well, goals from Smith, McCabe, Chambers, Murphy dazzling on the wing, Spencer marshalling the defence, Abbott pulling off spectacular saves. This was a club that had been in existence for a matter of weeks, playing like a team that had been together for years. In the next episode, we'll follow Wigan Athletic deeper into September and October 1932 as the Cheshire League season gets into full swing, and find out whether the promise of these first few matches translates into a sustained challenge. Until then, thanks for listening to the Heritage Project. See you next time.